Hi everybody, welcome to our afterthoughts for the film Archipel by Felix Dufour-Laperriere, who is here with us, and wonderful to be with us here, Felix.
Real pleasure to be with you, even
Thank you.
digitally.
So, l- considering that this is a rather complex endeavor of a film, let me try to let's say unravel it in a slightly systematic fashion. Um, What was your first idea or your first vision when you started this project? Did you
It,
already, for example, know that you would use the film Les Îles de Saint-Laurent as something like a backbone, or
it was written in a very free movement, and it all started with it not really an idea, neither a subject but a desire. And the desire was to it's the kind of film I wanted to do when I got out of university. Very free, get in the studio, make images, and look what it gives. Um, I started writing at archipelagos like by it's little stations. One then you go one after another. It was very free, moving from one station to another. Once one island reel invented to another. So the writing was very like open-minded, very déambulatoire, as we say in
mm,
French, deambulatory, like
mm,
and so was the production. The production we entered in the studio, and we made images for two years and a half, let's say.
mm. So you would say that for you, a film is above all a collage effort.
It's a collage effort, but within a certain frame of time, subject,
Mm,
state of mind.
mm,
And it evolved a lot. Your question about the islands of Saint is good. It happened at the script was written, and
mm,
I stumbled upon that archive, which
mm,
and I was happy as hell. Like I was like a young kid
mm,
discovering something that, and it's funny because it's very pre-modern in Quebec. It's exactly before the first steps of modernity in Quebec. So it really is an
mm.
a historical piece. So so it's precious in that way. It's a past word. So it's very interesting just to build with animation other images that takes that relays that continue this archive.
As you say, pre-modern, what I found astonishing is that either the film or you or both of you focus very strongly on the churches. And there's a lot of religious imagery in that film. Would the religious imagery be there without that film?
Hmm. That's a, that's very. We have a very strong Catholic background in Quebec. The
Mm,
church was an ally to the British colonization, and they were they were having a grasp on the whole society, very strict. And the modernity in Quebec, which was a bit late, let's say, it started in the 50s and really grow in the 60s. But let's say was this modernity happened against the church and the Catholic heritage. So so our history, but also our land, the territory is full of church. Like there are churches everywhere, and it even if we're now more or less one of the less religious people in the world,
mm,
it's the churches are all empty, but
mm,
still there are users, there are habits and cultural a cultural legacy
mm.
to it. And so even if it's now the secular, let's say so there is indeed a lot of church because churches are everywhere.
But what you actually kind of start the film with is you were talking about modernism, but you start the film already, let's say, in a certain pinnacle of Quebec modern with the silent revolution, if I understood this correctly, because
Yeah,
basically the two figures that you evoke at the beginning are, let's say, the two poles of a silent, of a quiet revolution.
exactly. yeah. It's a very specific. You're right. It's a very specific uh, time and space. It's Jacques Ferrand was a novelist and a doctor and an essayist, very wonderful essayist. And Pierre Vallière is famous for his essay in French. I'll say it because it's quote unquote. In French, c'est la nègre blanc d'Amérique. So in English, it's the N word. So let's be careful and say it's white Negro of America.
Yep.
So and it was written it was written in while in jail after he did a hunger strike in New York with the Black Panthers. Like it was he went to New York to meet Black Panthers because he wanted to take some lessons to bring back that kind of direct action to Quebec. Anyway, so it's two almost opposite figure. Dr. Ferrand was very gentle. It was a bit depressive, yet a wonderful writer, deep and joyful and with a lot of humor. And Vallière was an angry man, and he's more of a his life was very difficult. So it's kind of he looked like an unhappy man. So it's kind of it's an opposite faces of modernity, I would say.
What is actually the silent revolution for you personally? Because already your film before, Villeneuve, is about the silent revolution and let's say, the idea of the heritage of that period. And it also has a man and a woman discussing, just like in Archipel.
For me, the quiet revolution or the silent revolution is a paradoxal moment in Quebec history. It is our leap into modernity, but it is a leap that was only aptly made. Like there's something that it should or its goal was the political independence. Basically, it was from coming from everywhere, but it didn't was able to achieve it. So. And it's very linked with the paradoxical state of being of living in Quebec, like we're a minority, a drop of French speaking people in a whole English speaking ocean. Yet within Quebec, we're the majority group, like the French speaking. So there's a paradox. We're not mastering our political destiny, yet we live and experience the North American prosperity. So it's kind of it's very paradoxal. So it's and for me the quiet revolution resumes and is crystallized this paradoxical state and tells us a lot about who we are today. Yet it was a quiet revolution. So like we didn't get rid of everything. There's a lot of continuities. There's a lot of unresolved problems, and there's a lot of things that were saved, I would say.
Do you think it's more of a dream or more of a reality? Because we do have in Archipel, we do have real islands and we do have dream islands.
I think our perception of the reality, especially when it comes to language, to politics, is there's a lot of imagination getting into it. The way we perceive a territory is invented. It's something intimate, and yet it is linked with the concrete, like collective destiny. So that's what Archipel is about. I think it's a real territory, but that is perceived necessarily within each person as an imaginary field and as an invented space where when with the language, with the images we cherish, with the places and towns and villages we love, we build an invented territory that we keep with us. So, but it's very close. It's almost and you're right that there is a link with Villeneuve because there's a man and a woman talking, and because maybe that's I'm the father of two kids, and I have the strong intuition that my engagement toward my kids, toward my wife that I love, toward my friends that I love, is somewhere linked with the other engagement I have in life, art or political. Right? It's all together, and it's all an invented space that we develop intimately more as we grow older. And
I should say something that I really love about the film is really its plethora of styles. That I mean, you not only use various techniques, but if I'm not completely mistaken, at least 10 different styles. From the very detailed, thin, very thin lined drawings to these fantastic moment when you have these very bold color spaces that are very abstract. And in between, you've got basically these moments where you paint over real images. You have stuff that looks like a 3D animation, etc. So is this something that you were actually also yearning for when you made that film? You were saying you were inventing it, and when you listening to you, one gets the impression that you were really piling up styles as an expression of the grandeur of the dream of Quebec.
yeah, and it was a matter of pleasure also. Like it's two things. It's having fun, just trying things, putting colors on paper, trying a lot of things. And I worked with a very good teams of animators, women and men, that were given like sequences, full sequences to animate. Often I would only like put the device on, so I would like say, okay, we will make images like that. I give them 4 or 5 examples, the script, and like 2 pages of notes, and they say, okay, go ahead, and let's see what it is, what it gives. And so, and it's also, it is a way of approaching like for me a territory that is very complex. Like it's my grandmother, it's Jacques Ferron and Hubert Aquin. It's a place that I love. So you see when you, it's the love that I have for my kids, that are, so my daughter appears somewhere in the film. And so there's when you try to identify what makes for you a territory or a home, or so it's a lot of complex and different. There's images with different origins. So that's try to translate that, and it's linked a lot with my love of author short animation. Like I love short author animated films. Like and they take a technique and they explore it, and some of them like get better and better, like refining a technique over the years. Others are passing from one to another. I'm more the second kind, like going one place to another. But
Which basically puts you in my very good book, because I do very much like people who think of cinema as an adventure. And adventure basically means always to try out new stuff.
and it's a life to live also. We are, and it's a chance to be able to do it, but yet it's an engagement. It's a life to live. And that for Archipel, it's like honestly, that film was like a gift. It was written very like easily, no problem. It went out pretty quick. The funding was very easy because my girlfriend had a very good idea. My wife had a very good idea. She said, "Okay, you won't get the funding for a fiction film. That's not a fiction film. Like it's more. So you should try to finance it as a documentary." So I financed it quite easily as an invented documentary. And even if it was scripted, and if it was like quite precisely scripted in the dialogues, but very free at the images, very open at the regarding the images. So it was easy to write, easy to finance, and it was I had the chance to have a wonderful team. So it was a lot of fun, even with the confinement, to produce the film.
You mentioned Hubert Aquin. Where is he in the film?
Yeah, the guy who is upside down.
Yes.
And he's getting older as he committed suicide. It's a very
Yes.
it's a clin d'œil, because I love Hubert Aquin, and he committed suicide, so he never grew very old. So just to make him and it just to make him get white hairs. And it comes after the fatigue. The fatigue is
Yes.
and he's very famous for a text that he wrote, La Fatigue Culturelle, the cultural
Yes, yes, yes.
of French Canada. So
Mm,
it's a little blink.
mm,
It's a testimony of love.
mm. Um, this is not your first film that you did about a sea journey, because I remember that you also did a film called Transatlantique. Um, what is it with you and sea journeys?
That's unconscious. That's it. It's and I don't. That's totally unconscious and not. And that's once again that's my upset. How come there's always water in your film? I don't exactly know. It's
Mm,
maybe I partly grew on the farm near the Saint Lawrence River. My grandfather had a farm. And we were watching the Saint Lawrence River, which is very large in Charlevoix, and it's pretty majestuous. So I think there's something like that, and I think it's something. The sea is a paradox in Quebec. Apart from the Gaspésian, the peninsula of Gaspésie,
mm,
we're not toward the sea, but we call sea the river
mm,
because it gets very large. So it's a possibility to see. And we're not seamen in Quebec. Not much. There are fishermen, but not seamen. And we're a bit insular, like as a in yet. Yeah, we're more aiming toward the interior of the continent. So the sea is a complex possibility. So I think it may be the answer. But honestly, I have to say it's unconscious.
mm.
I wouldn't be able to give a reason.
Did you actually ever travel down the Saint Laurent?
Yes, once, and it was one of it was a wonderful trip. Coming when we shot Transatlantic, we started in Antwerp, and we by taking Atlantic North Atlantic Sea, north of England, we went inside the Saint Laurent and then
Mm,
in Montreal. So it was shot in over the period of 31 days, and the trip ended up in the Saint Laurent, and it was a wonderful feeling to discover landscape that I knew, but
mm,
from the land, and to see them again in a renewed from the sea. For me, it was I want my kids to see that.
mm. What would you, to ask one last question, what gives you greater pleasure? To find an image or to create one? Because you also work in documentary cinema.
It's a very good question, and there's a I'm a bibliophile. So I have a lot of books. I'm not collecting them, but I for on certain topics, arts, Quebec, and certain writers, I have like tons of
Mm,
books. Like, I cannot stumble upon a copy of Jacques Ferrand's book without buying it because I give them away, and so I've already have a lot of them at home. So when people do, I give a lot of books away. So and in Archipel, there's a lot taken from old books that I keep buying in thrift store on used books libraries, um, images, painting, and it's a good feeling, to just to be to it's so I'm coming back to your question. There's a need to share an image when you discover it, when you feel that you discover it.
mm,
So it's the documentary part. Like you love an image, and you want to share it.
mm,
You want to show it to somebody and say, oh, look that image. And on the other side, there's it's the fabrication, the making from nothing, from dust of a new image, is a more painstaking process.
mm.
Yet it is something different. It's especially in animation, it moves and it evolves, and so I guess half and half. Let's say.
So but in that you are aware that you are kind of the fulfillment of a very particular dream of Canadian cinema. Because if I can't remember if it was Grierson or Tom Daly who basically had this vision of the total filmmaker who would combine animation and documentary cinema as really the Canadian filmmaker.
I know. Um, we talk off the air. We talked about Gilles Groux,
Yeah.
and Archipelago is linked to his film 24 hours or more,
Mm,
24 heures ou plus. It's
oh,
very in the spirit. It's a very free film, very political, and but you see that the editing is very free. And there's something and very intuitive about it.
mm,
When you know the Quebec story, you can identify what image was
mm,
put there, for what reason, and everything. But when I saw it first at 21, I think, or at 20, I didn't know where the images come from. So I just felt that there's some part of it was real and some part was a totally mental landscape,
mm,
even if it was if even if it had political aims or a political very strong political message, but it was half real and half like very intimate mental
mm.
scape. So and maybe that's the case of most political like engagement. I would say.
This is a wonderful way of closing this. Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope you will have also a good time at the festival, even if it's only digital.
It will be weird to have a drink by yourself.
Well, we shall basically have that drink once we have better times.
So thank you very much for having me, and thank you for the interview.
Thank you.